Hello, Luke Owen here, channel director for the WrestleTalk Podcast, and I just want to do this quick update video to give you the lay of the land, a State of the Union address for the WrestleTalk Podcast channel. First of all, I'd like to thank every single one of you that has tuned in to not just this video, but all of our other videos, whether that is you tune in live for the Raw, SmackDown, AEW reviews, or you watch them on demand. We love and appreciate every single view that you give us, and without you, we can't do this for a living. We'd also like to thank anyone that has left a comment on any of our videos, whether that be positive, negative, or just calling us AEW shills. We really do appreciate everyone that makes this the best wrestling community on YouTube. However, we do have some sad bits for this update video. The first of which I kind of think is actually a little bit of a positive in a way. We're saying goodbye to the Thunderdome era of the WrestleTalk Podcast, which means the podcast will no longer look like this, and will instead take place here on this wonderful, beautiful set designed by Rosie Nichols. We love this set. We love this desk. We love this backdrop. We love these microphones. We love the camera that we're filming this on. We think that we're making and producing the best podcast content out there on YouTube, but we can only really do this from this studio. When we do things remotely, it doesn't always look as good as it really could do. So, barring things like tube strikes or the world ending, or, days like today when, good crikey, it is hot in this studio, we will always be doing things here on this set. Even though this set does get ludicrously hot. I'm currently filming this on the hottest day of the year here in the UK. It's actually hotter here in the UK than it is in Death Valley, and we don't have air conditioning. Really, really warm filming this. I'm actually sweating. But as some of you might have already figured out, that means it's going to be the end of shows with Sat, SP3, and Denise Salcedo. Firstly, we're cancelling the NXT review. Now, this has nothing to do with Sat or SP3 or the great work that they put into that show, because they really have done an amazing job reviewing NXT. The problem is that no one cares about NXT. In fairness, no one has ever really cared about NXT here with WrestleTalk or on the WrestleTalk podcast. They were always our lowest rated podcast when it was Laurie and I reviewing it. They were the lowest rated podcast during the Wednesday Night Wars. They were the lowest rated podcast when Pete and Tempest reviewing it. And they're the lowest rated podcast when Sat and SP3 are hosting. It's nothing to do with the hosts, it's the product itself. And no one really cares about NXT. In fact, even less people care about NXT than they did 3 years ago. And that's unfortunately reflected in the viewership for the show. And we've tried with NXT reviews. We've been trying NXT reviews for years, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, it does not connect with the WrestleTalk podcast audience. So it is with a heavy heart that I tell you that this week's NXT will be the final NXT review here on the WrestleTalk podcast. Which brings us to Team Denuke. Now, I love doing the Team Denuke show. Denise loves doing the Team Denuke show. But it is becoming harder for us to arrange the show. Denise and I have only done 3 shows together since WrestleMania. I've got a really busy schedule here. Denise is the hardest working person in all of sports infotainment, so is regularly going to shows. And I personally feel like her doing the show on a Friday, she does it more as a favor to us. I feel like we're becoming a burden to her. And the Team Denuke show sort of lives and dies by its views. And there are some weeks when it does great numbers, and there are other weeks when it does really bad numbers. Part of that, in my personal opinion, is because of the rotating casts of hosts, because I've not been around for a lot of Fridays, so Adam has filled in, Pete has filled in, Tempest has filled in, Andy has filled in, or there's weeks where Denise can't do it, so Andy fills in, or Adam fills in, or Pete fills in, and unfortunately I don't think that consistency has been good for the show, and therefore views have really dropped off from it. I think that that's more on me than it is anyone else, but that means that we've had to rethink how the Team Denuke show works. And also with the end of the Thunderdome era, we want to do a show that's here in studio. So we're rebranding. We've rebadged it, you fools. The Team Denuke show will now be a different kind of podcast. It's going to be hosted by myself, Pete, and Tempest here in person, in studio. It's going to be a pre-recorded show that airs on a Friday at 3 p.m. UK time. And it's going to be us sharing our wrestling opinions, talking about the wrestling news from the week, maybe even getting Pete's thoughts on Raw, maybe my thoughts on SmackDown, maybe we'll take a look at some NXT UK stuff, some NXT stuff, some Impact stuff. We'll just kind of talk about the wrestling world in general. The current working title for it is the Blackpool Content Club, which me and Pete absolutely love, but Ollie and Andy think is really stupid. But regardless of what we call it, we're really, really excited about doing this show. Me, Pete, and Tempest love chatting wrestling together, and we love chatting wrestling with you, so we can't wait for you to check it out. And this also doesn't mean that we're not going to be doing things with SP3, Sat, and Denise. SP3 already works really hard behind the scenes at PFK, at partsFUNknown, which I don't think many people really know. He's also working really hard on WrestleTalk.com, so him not doing the NXT review is actually going to free him up more time to be able to do stuff on PFK and on WrestleTalk.com. Sat is getting a bit of a promotion. We're looking to bring him in for the WrestleTalk news. We're going to try him out on other WrestleTalk podcasts because he lives here in London, so we can bring him in to do stuff in studio. And Denise Salcedo will always be a presence in the WrestleTalk universe because we love her too much to not do anything with her. So we'll be doing stuff with her on partsFUNknown, and yes, she will be back for a Quizzlemania at some point. Whether she's hosting or not's a different matter, but she will be back for Quizzlemania. But since we're on the subject of talking about viewerships of shows, let's talk about pay-per-view live reactions. Like a lot of things we do here at WrestleTalk and partsFUNknown and No Rolls Barred, we love doing pay-per-view live reactions. They're a lot of fun to do. They're very tiring, but we really love doing them. The problem is that when we have crunched the numbers, what we've discovered is that people are only really tuning in for pay-per-views when something big or exciting is going to happen, or it's an AEW show. I think the reason for the latter is because our audience is more geared towards All Elite Wrestling, like the AEW reviews way outpace anything WWE related, and also something big always tends to happen at an AEW show. But when it comes to WWE pay-per-views, your Backlashes, your Hell in a Cells, and this, that, and the other, people aren't that interested. We don't seem to get the VOD on-demand views that other channels get, where they tune in to see what their reaction was to certain moments. People don't really come to us for that. I don't know why, but they don't, and that's fair. So not only does doing the pay-per-view live reactions for B-level pay-per-views kind of lose us money, that costs us money to make, it also causes havoc with the following week because of tiredness and rescheduling things because we have to take days off because we've worked overnight. And with so many exciting projects that we're working on that we've got coming up, that really kind of just throw things out of whack. So the decision we have made is that moving forward, we will be doing live reactions to the 5 big WWE pay-per-views. So that's Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. And we'll be doing live reactions to all of the AEW pay-per-views. We're also going to be doing live reactions for the WWE Saudi Arabia shows because those are our charity streams and we like to raise money for Sami Faceria and for other charities. As it currently stands, we're going to be doing live reactions to Survivor Series, but the last few years have shown me that WWE themselves don't care about Survivor Series, so I don't expect their audience to be that invested either. So we'll see what happens with Survivor Series live reactions, whether we just stop doing that one and we do a different show instead. Should also say as well, this isn't written in stone. We're just never going to do live reactions to B pay-per-views. If like WWE promotes something really big for TLC, like if they do Roman Reigns versus The Rock at TLC, yeah, we'll be doing live reactions for TLC. But I don't think they will be. A good example of this is this year's Backlash. If next year's Backlash is the same as this year's, we just won't be doing live reactions to that because, well, nothing happens and no one cares. But we will still be doing reviews for all of those pay-per-views. We'll also be doing prediction shows for the pay-per-views as well. It's just the prediction shows will now also be pre-recorded. One final change to the channel, but this is more for podcast listeners, Patreons, and Membergs, is that we are ditching the podcast extras. We just don't think they're really adding anything to the shows anymore. Back when it was just me and Ollie, it really felt like they were extra added value content, but now they just sort of feel like a burden. They sort of feel like people aren't really that interested in us talking about what we've been doing that day, and we don't really get any emails anymore. We're not really getting any Twitter feedback to them either, so we just think it's best that we just focus on the show. So if you listen to the podcast version, you can just dive straight into the raw review and you don't have 10 minutes of inane waffle to begin with. But for those that do enjoy that, we're going to improve it and make it something bigger. Starting from September, once a month, Ollie, myself, Pete, and Tempest are going to be sitting down and doing a behind-the-scenes podcast for our Patreons and Membergs. So this will be kind of like the podcast extras, talking about our lives in general, but also sharing some behind-the-scenes tidbits from the WrestleTalk news, from partsFUNknown, from the WrestleTalk podcast. So we could tell stories of like how the Randy games came together and any fun stories from filming that. We could talk about planning Tempest coming over to the UK and how all of that came together. That Mad Friday when it was just Ollie and Pete and they had to cover all of the Vince McMahon news when he stepped down as CEO. It's going to be a bit like the backstage podcast we do for CBW and the MyGM series that we did on partsFUNknown. And we think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we really can't wait for you to hear the four of us just sitting around and just kind of chatting away. It's also not going to be the same as the Mailbag show or After Dark. It's going to be more sort of work-centric, if that makes sense. And lastly, for the update, I am trying to get us to 70,000 subscribers. That's a self-imposed target that I wanted to get to. I thought it would be achievable by the end of 2022, but we're only kind of gaining 100 or so subs like every month, a couple of 100 subs every month. So yeah, it seems like 70,000 seems like a really far target at this point. But I really want to get to 70,000 subscribers because at that point, we can do our 10-hour Royal Rumble randomizer. So what that means is that we're going to put all of the Royal Rumbles into a sort of random generator thing, and we're going to press go, and then whatever Rumble it tells us to watch, we're going to watch that Rumble. And then when that Rumble's finished, we're going to watch another one. And we're going to do that for 10 hours. And we can all do it together. It sounds like it'll be a lot of fun. But in order to do that, we want to try and get towards 70,000 subscribers. We want to hit 70,000 subscribers, and we can't do that without you. So hey, get your friends involved. Get your friends involved in the best wrestling community out there on YouTube. Now, I know there is a lot in this update video and a lot of it doesn't sound positive, but we do think that this is actually going to improve the channel and is going to make this a much better viewing experience for you all. Please do let me know in the comments down below, good or bad or indifferent, because we really do want to hear from you and what you think about these channel updates. I'm also available on Twitter at @thisislukeowen. You can send me anything on there. I will try and reply to you. But I will also be checking the comments on this video because I do want to hear what you have to say about our updates. But for now, that's it. We're trying to get to 70,000 subscribers, so please help us get there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, although I'd imagine if you're watching this video, you already are a subscriber. But hey, get your friends involved, get your family involved, get your pets involved. We really want to see more of you on this channel. Until then, I've been Luke Owen. Jam that jam.